I hope everybody's well. It took some thinking, and still thinking about it, how to approach this subject, because some topics are a little hotter than other topics, and this one had me thinking a little harder as to how to approach it and how to set it up so that that the message comes out the way it should come out. I consider my school a place of self-discovery, training, and no, not necessarily for competitions, because they don't always prepare you for real life. They don't. I'm sorry to say so. As a bouncer for 25 years and somebody who did compete in knockdown tournaments when I was in my teens, it's not always about safe spaces and safe zones, and controlled areas. Real life, there is no control at times, right? So this topic kind of got me a little off guard in how to present it, because it's something that is something we talk about constantly at the school. And because I've worked, being a veteran and having worked with many military bases around the world and security forces, these are topics that are not easy to address because most people don't take it to heart. All right. So I'd like to set it up. This is something that you should put aside, come back when you have a cup of coffee, because eventually it will affect you and it will affect your kids. And at the school, I'm an advocate for the kids. We do a ton of pushing them, and we do a lot of dialogue in terms of ethics, morals, and of course with the blessing of the parents, because that's why they bring their kids to us, and including the adults that do listen to this, because they have some interest in being at the school for, as part of that, part of the training. I mean, being a warrior is not just punching and kicking and grappling. It's being able to use your brain, your heart in the right places, right? So it can't be just a thing of movement only. And defending yourself means defending yourself in many other ways than just punching your way out of stuff. I like to think of our school as a place where people do come, they discover themselves there. It is a safe area, but we do, I do push certain stresses on them that might make it a little familiar as to what they might encounter out in the street, because it cannot, while it is a safe place for them to express themselves and train and be themselves without any judgment, they also have to be able to deal with the stresses of an uncontrolled environment and society. They can't control everything, so they can only control themselves, and they have to be able to do with what they know and what they can, and it's the level of skill that gets them out: verbal, mental, and physical skill. Now, after having gotten the permission of my student and her family, so I can do this video without revealing her identity in any way, I thought this would be a good opportunity to lay down some real life reality happening today here in Montreal and in Laval and around the world in general, but now it's very close to home. How close to home, you say? Very close to home. I'll explain to you now. Like I said, I don't know how to approach this, because I want to send a message to you people. This is what I do at the school. Because of my experience and having worked with security forces and various security forces around the world, military now, with being one of them, and law enforcement included. And I have a ton of law enforcement friends, including students that I've worked with over the years. These are things that we do touch on, and they're not easy subjects to touch on because there's barriers there. So this subject is concerning the sex trafficking scenario and how prevalent it is in our society right now and in our neighborhoods. And most people will not take it at heart. And most people cannot relate to it. They don't want to. There's a mechanism inside our heads that we don't want to hear stuff like that. It'll never happen to us. We don't walk out of the house thinking anything bad will happen to us. It's funny how our society works. Nobody's learned anything from it. Not nobody. A lot of people have not learned anything from other people's happenings. Because they say, well, I didn't go there, I didn't do that, and why should it happen to me? And, my steps are measured, and I do this with my kid, and I make sure my kid's this. Dude, I can't tell you how many times in my life, in the 35 years that I've worked with kids, I've seen the worst happen from people who've actually tried to control situations that could not be, that they thought they could control. That's parents for you. Us as parents, we think we can control. I'm blessed to be in this business because I understood how very little control I have over my kids when they're not at home with me. I come to terms with that very early on in life, and as protective as I was and still am over my kids, I realized that most of the time they're not with me. So they're learning a lot of things that I might not want them to learn, when it comes to morals, ethics, and stuff like that in school or with other kids or in life out in the streets. And they're going to have to deal with these things on their own because you're not there. None of us are there. Even the teachers who are there don't give a fucking rat's ass. They don't. The majority of them, especially today, when they're on break at school, they're on fucking Facebook. I'm sorry, guys and ladies and whatever. That's the fucking truth. There's a very tiny minority of teachers and principals out there who actually give a fuck about their students. Tiny minority. Tiny. I can't tell you how many teachers I know that don't give a shit. I don't want to get involved. It's their problem in school. Let's just follow the rules and that's it. Well, that's the reality. So it's up to the parents that have to be able to deal with what they, make certain decisions for their kids while their kids are young and not in a position to make decisions, although the government is trying to make decisions for us now, so they can at least deal with the issues that they will be presented with. They will face, whether you want to admit it or like it or not. The parent that thinks he's got it all under control has fooled himself right off the bat. And if you don't abide by that, then you're in trouble. So, getting back to the this scary story that I'm going to tell you that happened to one of my own, that still has me shocked, because we talk about it at school and we make issues about this. And I make huge issues to the students that I've had for years, and sometimes I hear myself talk at school, and I literally, almost want to tell myself, shut the fuck up. You sound like a cranky old fucking extra father now, that they don't want to hear about. It's just a blessing that they're in school, that they're here training with us. They just want to be on Instagram when they're not in here, and you're just fucking breaking it for them. Yeah, fucking party pooper, man. Well, it's good to know that I'm not, because, the students are appreciative of it. Although, sometimes I can, and I do push the issue because I see it happening, and they don't because they're too young. And I'm talking about the students that are under 18, 17, 16. The younger ones, the ones that are under 16, basically. It's happening to them, and it's happening a lot. Laval and Montreal have become a hub for sex trafficking. Police know that. A lot of people, the media knows this. A lot of people know this. Yet a lot of people in law enforcement, the cops on the street or investigators or whoever, hands are tied because orders come from up above. For example, Carrefour Laval, Fairview, these are all hubs. They're nests for sex traffickers because they're surrounded by schools, and these guys know it. And they go there and they try to sway the girls and boys, depending on what the demand is, to kidnap them and take them away. I know it sounds horrible to kidnap Aris, really. I mean, those are harsh words for people to hear. Kidnap. Abduct. That sounds so far, so alien to me, Oh, abduct, that's terrible that happened to her. Honey, it's Black Friday. We need to go shopping because that is on special. how quick we become, we push aside and just want to, channel our thoughts somewhere else, to somewhere happy, as opposed to something that's actually happening. Kudos to the parents who have their kids in martial arts schools and make sure that they stay there to protect themselves, to learn to deal and protect themselves. Kudos to those parents. And I've made other videos before saying that to distinguish between sport and martial arts training. Two different things. Sport, fun, martial arts training, discipline. No, you cannot get that discipline in a team sport. You're sitting out half of the fucking time. You're done. You're sitting out half the fucking time, sitting there watching in front. Yeah, pass it to him. It's fun. It's fun. You can hockey and baseball and basketball and flag football all as hard as you fucking want. You still won't be able. That does not mean that you can fight your way out of a wet paper bag or defend yourself in a fucking scary, threatening situation. Impossible. That's not going to happen. So you want to distinguish between that, go to my other videos and you'll understand why. This is why I take my time. I take a little longer to express. I'm not a 2-minute video guy, 3-minute video guy. There's certain magnitude of certain issues that cannot be explained in 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So go through them. Like I said, get your cup of coffee later on at night. You have nothing to do. You're totally bored out of your fucking mind. Sit back and listen to what I have to say. There's people that paid a lot of money when I would go give seminars to listen to what I'd have to say. I'm giving this for free. So be smart about it. So I won't divulge my student's identity. She's a young girl, and she's in high school. And we do this every day in class. Every class there is, especially with the girls in there. I accentuate to them and I press the issue that there is a reason why we give 1,000% when we train. So that when that time comes, only under pressure do you know who you are. Only under pressure. Not when things are good. Because when things are good, there's no need to perform in anything. There's no need to defend. There's no need to have a wall up. We're just having a good, dandy old time. But when the pressure comes, only then do you realize, whether you rise to the occasion of your training, or you fall to the level of your training, or whatever that training may be. So only then do you know what comes out from you. Are you fight or flight? Now, a lot of these mechanisms can be changed. But it's only under a harsh scenario do you realize what you're capable of, and what you're not capable of. And that's a biggie. Because if you're not capable, if you don't have that instinct of yours to fight back, you're in trouble. When they say kidnap, you are forever gone. You're never seen again. When you are abducted by these guys, you are never to be seen again. So this is why I bellow out at them and I push at them and I scream at them, every fucking minute of the hour and a half that they have with me, every night that they're with me, to give everything they have. Party and clown around before you come and after class. Identify yourself as a warrior when you are in class. Take up the makeup and the character of the warrior. Take up that character while you're in there. Get in character. And it starts first mentally. So we touch on this every day, every night. How dangerous it is out there. Because in the early stages of life, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, most of the time they're holding your hand. After that, even in shopping centers, they're not holding your hand anymore. While you're looking at clothes and looking to buy, whatever you're buying, they're out there looking at their toys. While there's guys or women looking at them. Now, the danger And that's dangerous enough. But the real danger comes when they are now going first year high school and they're taking the city bus. Not the school bus, the city bus. Because they're at that level now where the school bus doesn't come there. You have to go by city bus, by metro. I won't go into this video and some of the stories that have been told to me over the years by students, mostly women, all of them girls, that have happened to them while on the bus or the metro. I'm just gonna tell you this one over here because this one was terrifying. So because we constantly bellow this out, and I constantly push them at the school to make sure that they can give everything they have. They punch, kick, elbow, knee, throw with everything, every fiber they have, so that they can get into that character when that reflex, that mechanism kicks in, when the time, and if and when the time comes. And the time came for this little girl. So she finds herself outside the school and alone. Students are going into class. She's in the back for one reason or another. It just happens that she delays going in. She was about to go into class, and behind her, somebody comes and pulls her to the side, and attempted to take a needle, which he did pick her, but did not inject the sedative that he was trying to inject. Instead, what he got was a girl who totally twitched, because you don't know what you're gonna do during that time. Nobody does. Everybody thinks they do. I spent 25 years as a doorman in some of Montreal's fucking most rowdiest clubs. Every city has rowdy clubs, man. Oh, Tommy, New York has the ball. We had our own fucking shit here. We had our own shit. Hey, man, that's another topic. Anyways, another topic for another time. But I spent 25 years in Montreal's various rowdiest clubs where the who's who of everybody was in there. And you had to keep these people. And at the time where nobody used guns at that time. When I started leaving the clubs, that's when the guns started coming in. But most of the time it was they wanted face-to-face with you. They wanted to take you out and they wanted to know that they took you out, or it was knives. It was rare that it was more than one person, except for when it was brawls or they came looking for you. So that was a completely other time. And I can tell you that when shit happens, it's not a movie. It doesn't happen as a movie. And I can tell you that half of the fucking shit that I hear on Facebook and on social media, that this doesn't work, that doesn't work, is absolute fucking garbage from people that have not been put in that scenario to happen to them spontaneously. I don't want to run off track, but I remember one guy going, oh, you can't eye gouge me, man, because I already know. So he goes, okay, Johnny, eye gouge my, try to take my eyes from the back. Well, he's already closing his eyes and squinting. I mean, like as if, because he knows what's happening. You don't know what's happening, dude. I've met people up there to show you that real life has no control. I had people who had sand in their pockets with pepper inside. Guys that's what they use as an advantage. That was their sucker punch. And we saw guys hanging in there, having both hands in their pockets. We knew something's up. And, that there was there so that you can throw sand, get sand into your eyes and then start working on you. And the pepper would do the extra damage to make sure that, it burned. There's a lot of shit that went down there that most people have no fucking clue. 90% of the people talking, that are in controlled environments are talking out of their ass. In a real scenario, you don't know what's going to happen. This little girl had no clue up until the guy grabbed her from the rear and tried to bring her to the back and try to stab her with a injector, with a syringe. He didn't get that far because as soon as she felt that, she twitched. She twitched and she moved and she elbowed and she back kicked and she turned, she punched, and had enough room to give herself that space to break off and run and take off and go into the school. It made enough commotion for this guy to take off, and he still threatened her. The guy was full of tattoos. The cops came. They called the police. There's a report that was made out there. They've never seen this guy before. Obviously, he might not even be from within the city. He might be coming in from Ontario or God knows where else. And this is exactly what they do. They take them and they move out of the city with them. They don't keep them here. And she broke loose. She ran to class, and then afterwards the police were notified. They came in, they took, and you know what the police said? It's not the police's fault. They're just saying, they're just expressing what they know to be true, is that this guy probably will never be found. He was unrecognizable to them from the area, and chances are he just won't be found. He had tattoos on his face, across here and under here, which remind me of certain groups, but this is what it was. Now, that in itself is terrifying. Then there's the after effect of what happens afterwards to them, what they go through mentally and emotionally, what they start feeling. And I asked her questions that, I asked if she would permit me to ask her questions, and she did. So I asked questions as, what do you feel now? Because it's too much to ask and too much that goes through her head. And the one thing that stuck out the most, and she said, was, I can't believe this actually happened to me. It was terrifying. And how can it not be terrifying? Because you're this far, when you come to realize you broke away, but you were this far from never being seen again. Not just being kidnapped, but from never being seen again. That's the doozy. The fact that she thought and rationalized, it almost came down to me disappearing forever. No family, no friends, no nothing. Just pure horror after that. We talk about this in class, and we had spoken about this, I think it was that same week. Now they're taking it a little serious now. So we've had a talk with the girls at the school, and now they're starting to take this a little bit more serious because of what happened. And because of what happened and what's happening now. Now they're seeing it happen to one of their own. Now, me, when I heard about it, I was mortified. Because I'm a father as well. I have a daughter. My daughter's 24 years old, but I never consider anything out of danger. Your entire life, as long as you're on here, you make your life as beautiful as you can by being prepared for it. There's no such thing as I'm looking for happiness and nobody has the right to assault me. That's just absolute lunacy if you believe that. You're totally ignorant and stupid of history. Never in the annals of history, in the history of mankind, has there not been danger. Cain killed his brother Abel. Right off the bat, right there, it shows you, from the very beginning. It was a choice that was made. And these are choices people are making. And they're making these choices. And it's up to you to be able to be prepared for what happens. Now, this world is on a happy-go-lucky, looking for a happy adventure. They've sucked in that Kool-Aid of looking for happiness. But they're not doing anything for their happiness. Their happiness consists of, I need to meditate to feel that happiness. I need to get rid of negativity to feel that happiness. I feel fucking happy around negative fucking people all the time. I don't hang with them. But I'm happy because I'm content with myself. My beliefs and who I am and whatever. I built my contentness. You build it, right? You can't control the world. But you can control, to a certain degree, yourself fully, as much, more or less. And then what type of surroundings you can be in. What you can't control is the fact that you are taking the steps necessary to be prepared if anything happens. This girl was mortified because it actually happened to her when we talk about this. And she still is shocked. And then after comes I don't want to think about it because, because it's heavy. But it does affect them, even though they don't realize it. Even when they try to push it out, it does affect them. And it's bothered her in many ways, which we're not going to discuss. It's only just to focus around on what is really happening out there. And I don't think parents are considering it. That's how close it is. It hit home. It hit our academy. by this much, she would have disappeared. Had she not been able to, and this is not a commercial for the school or for the martial arts or whatever, just to show you how relevant it is, how reality really is. It is insane that it can be that close to home. And people, when they hear about this, you're hearing about this now. I'm pretty sure you can't attach an emotion, some type of semblance of attachment to it. You can't relate to it and you can't even, fathom it in your mind because it almost seems that far away, alien. It didn't happen to us or anybody I know, so hence I can't really relate to it. People want to relate to things now in order to feel it. The fact that it's happening around us, it's literally happening everywhere in all the surrounding schools and everywhere in the city and around the world. In the history of mankind, we've never seen such a level of sex trafficking and child abduction ever. So now we're seeing it, and I understand that it's hard to try to relate to it because it hasn't happened to anybody you know. And this is something we always talk about in the school because it's there until it happens to you. And I hope it doesn't happen to anybody, but it did happen to my student. And if it happened to my student, it can happen to yours, because you can't control everything that happens outside when your kid is gone from the house. The only thing you can do is make sure that you have taken all the necessary steps to prepare them for when they are far from you. I feel for the parents. I mean, I can't imagine the overwhelming amount of emotions parents are going through, especially the mother and the father. And the father is a man who as a father, I can relate to him more than I can relate to the mom. I mean, aside from every other emotion, the rage that must be in there to want to protect my daughter and, put an end to guys like that is insane. So I do feel that. But just to say that this problem is going on, it's going strong, and why the police have not been able to, and they know that these are hubs, these are nests for these guys, why the cops have not, made sting operations to stop them, or to at least, not just to stop them, because they'll go somewhere else, but to at least start getting info on grabbing 1, 2, and figuring out where this is coming from, is beyond me. I don't know why that's not happening. Regular police and, detectives can't do anything unless orders are given up high. So I don't know what's happening up there, but this is happening. Carrefour and Fairview are huge. Montreal is a huge hub for this. And once they take him, they disappear. Now, I don't know what goes through your mind when you hear that, because this has happened to my student. I'm pretty sure most people won't even bat an eye after this. They'll just say, that doesn't happen to us. I have full control over my daughter, and stuff like that. Now, I'll tell you what goes through my mind is that because this is a very present danger, that would concern me more than anything. I mean, this is what we have kids for. This is to protect them. But you can't protect them all the time. This is historical. This is not today. This is historical. People that don't know their history will repeat it over and over and over again. Okay, so now we have the resources, and it's up to us to be able to make all the right moves so that our kids are as safe as possible. And you build the self-confidence. You teach them to have their self-confidence built somewhere. You're not going to do all of it. That's not going to happen. So you have to send them to a third party, as historically proven, a third party that you do trust, that is trustworthy, that will enforce morally and ethically the beliefs that you have to, and teach them how to take care of themselves. So you see, today, what we're seeing is, while your kid is at school, these guys are out there preying on them. And they're preying on them knowing what they're doing. They understand patterns. They know what to look for. They literally will come at your kids, and they know how to do it too. There's an entire network of these guys that work together. There's on the dark web and on the web, there are websites out there, where they use code phrases and code words and stuff like that, to be able to better their skills at this. These guys are as good as Class A mechanics, and when they fail at an attempt like this, sometimes, it hurts their ego. It does. But exposing these fuckers is very important, because you bring it into the light. Now once you put a light on a maggot, all of a sudden it starts looking for shade. And this is what we want to do. But parents need to be, they need to be very, not just informed, they need to be active in this, in making sure that their kids are capable of taking care of themselves. Because there's no stopping these guys. Who knows if that guy goes back to the same school? Maybe he will. Maybe he told her, I'm going to come back and get you. Imagine the audacity. Why? Because he figures, he lost that one. Now, whether that happens or not, that's another story. Now we're more prepared. Now we are more aware of what can happen, and we'll prepare for it. Authorities are out there. They know it. They're looking for this guy. Whether they find him or not is another story. But it takes cojones and a lot of stupidity to actually reattempt the same thing. The thing is, you as parents have to make sure, because this is happening over here, to make sure you take precautions. I'll do a separate video on the right way to take precautions. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but self-defense courses are not it. Your child needs to be in a school that can drill regularly. Drill and drill and drill and drill and drill and drill at least 4 times a week. Drill. So that it becomes it's locked into their motor units and the neuromuscular, pathways where the reflex becomes instant. Reactions become instant. It's not just I know how to do this, because that just doesn't hold water. We do things through training, through habitual behavior. This is how things become second nature, because we do this constantly, over and over. I'll refer to you to the simple little example of how, what it took for a child to learn to draw the letter A, the first letter. First, he had to learn how to hold a pen, and he had to do it every day for a long time within the day. Even to crayon, to color, you needed to hold this first, and then he started putting this down. Because most people that are teaching, that are trying to get by teaching just self-defense moves to people that can barely stand on their own feet, don't know where their point of balance is, to teach complicated stuff. It's not. It's about being put in a school that is ruthless in terms of drilling and knows how to pass the message across. That's the most important thing. That's where the attention should be at. Not in fast food martial arts. No. Nobody's ever learned anything by, variety store type training. A little of this, a little of that. Now I know this move. Well, it doesn't always happen that way. With my student, the guy grabbed it from behind. Nobody will tell you when they'll do that. Working as a doorman, most of the things happen when I wasn't watching. Guys that wanted to get to me, some of them, wouldn't even do it in front of me. They would wait until I was. And I can't tell you how many times my hair was pulled from the back, because I always had long hair. So, they thought that I got him now. And because I got him, well, no, they didn't get me, because I was prepared for it. I mean, I know how to deal with guys like that. And first of all, the first thing that's threatened when your hair is being pulled is your stability. Most people don't even have that stability, especially when they're not learning. As an athlete, though, who's constantly trained, every day it's a training session. Every day they practice this stability. Even professional athletes of all type of sports, because they've tuned their body into high performance, their body goes searching for that stability. It's second nature, instinctive for them. That's the difference between being trained. Now, my student she instinctively did what she could at that time. She elbowed back fast, hard, moved her hand, elbowed back, because they learned to twitch. They learned that at our school. There's drills that I specifically give them to react to things. So they learned that. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it was enough for her to create some form of impact that this obstructed the guy from being able to do this, which was huge. This is a brave little girl. Brave. And, you know, if one day she's comfortable enough to want to come out and say it in her own words, that's another story. This is not the time right now. She's gathering her thoughts, which is important for her. So she was brave enough to twitch, and even though she was afraid, the first mechanism that kicked in is boom, hit, back kick, smack, and then run. Because she realized, I've got space, run. I'm not going to outdo this guy. There's no way I can fight this guy off. And that's what it's about. That's what she did. See, things don't come out the way you want them to. It's not a movie. That's what I'm trying to drive across to you guys. Nobody knows what will happen until it happens. And this, as a doorman of 25 years, I can tell you, 90% of the time it just doesn't go the way you think it will. How do you manage that? Well, for starters, like I said, they have to go into a really good school, and parents need to be able to distinguish between sports that are for fun and sports that are training. Spartans knew that, and that's why today, almost 3,000 years later, they're still being talked about. 2,000 years later, they're still being talked about. Their methods, their way of life, because they were brutal, man. They were good at what they did, but they also had a balance in their life. They understood this balance, and that's what made them who they are. And there's a lot to learn from these people. Yes, because they were much smarter than we are today. They prepared for shit. We don't prepare for anything. The only thing we prepare for is Black fucking Friday. Black Friday. Dude, it's insane. And anything that the media pushes on us, which spells out SHEEP. And people do it. But that which is important to us, we don't. I'll give you one final little example. We put insurance on our cars, our houses, our diamonds, our valuables at home, and to make sure that if anything happens, we get them back, because it cost us a ton of money. And we even put life insurance so after we die, somebody can collect something to live, which is okay. It is. That helps. But how many actually put insurance on their lives for when they're alive, for their lives? How many actually take the precaution to ensure that their life, they can live it in some relative safety by taking the proper precautions and proper training to increase their perception, to teach themselves about situational awareness, because we're living in a world with other people, all kinds of people, and while there's good people out there, there's also notoriously horrible people out there, as we know today. So where's the insurance to, the actions that you take to ensure that your child or yourself are capable of negotiating these twists and turns that can turn really ugly in life? I'm pretty sure some of you are saying, something, Aris, I think you're over-exaggerating. Really? You tell that to the parents of that little girl who was by a hair abducted, nearly abducted, almost kidnapped, and almost disappeared for life. Once you're gone, you are gone. It is not, we'll let you go after. You try telling that to them. This is a kid that comes to my school. You're not going to hear it on the news because they wanted it relatively quiet. The one in Quebec City, she went on the news. She called the cops right away. Somebody tried to abduct her. She was a black belt in Taekwondo. She fought them off as best as she can, and she ran. She lived to tell it. So the thing is, not all of them live to tell it. It's a harrowing experience, horrifying. And we don't take the precautions and the measures to ensure ourselves. I tell my kids, because I don't feed my kids paranoia. Never did feed them paranoia. I tell my kids that the world is a dangerous place, but life is absolutely beautiful. As long as you make it beautiful. But if you start looking for happiness in all the wrong fucking places, well, then you've put both feet in one shoe, dug your own grave, and hung yourself on top of it. You've done it to yourself. Life can be beautiful if you take the precautions and the measures, and not just precautions, the measures, to prepare yourself so that you can go out in life non-paranoid, but fully aware. Because when you're aware, you're not paranoid, because you're relying on your trained self. You know what you can do and what you can't do, which is the other part of the lesson that has been learned in your training. What you can and what you cannot do. If I'm with one guy against one person or against 5 people, let's say I'm traveling or whatever, I know what I cannot do. I know my risk factors here. I know the risk level, the risk to safety ratio. I learned this in class. I learned this while applying it in class too. That's the thing that gives them preparation. It prepares them for their environment. So when they're out there calmly, having a real good time, secure in their knowledge that I'm also aware. Most people are out in, when they're out doing stuff, their eyes are there only to look, to see, not to perceive and observe, because they're not taught to observe. This is what makes special units more special than the average human being. They're taught to observe. They're taught to use their eyes in conjunction with their brain to notice, identify things, and keep it in there without emotionally going, oh, but he's wearing this, oh, but he moved like this. But just to make sure that they're aware of these things. That's the only thing that they can do. And that in itself is absolutely great, because it teaches them that I'm out having a real good time, but I'm also aware of my surroundings. I can't say that about a lot of people. I can't say that for a lot of people, because they're just not used to doing that. They're not trained like that. So, all to say that we reached 44 minutes, but I knew this was going to be a bit of a tough topic. All to say that this sex trafficking scenario is alive and well and very prevalent and very present in our communities, in our personal society, our personal community, our immediate community. The one in Laval, the one in Chamonix, the one in Laval in general, the one near our schools. It's very present. And I wish it does not happen to anybody, because when I think about it, it still enrages me and it still bothers me, makes me sick, because it's come knocked on our door. And the biggest mistake you can do as a parent for yourself and for your kid is to dismiss it or take it as okay, y'all look out for it, and then back to Black Friday or Black Monday or any other shopping day, other distraction. You have to ask yourself as a parent, what have I done to make sure that my kid can protect themselves? What have I done, or have I done enough or anything? It's not always about making your kid happy. Your kid's gonna live a lot longer, and go through all stages of emotions and and things to do in their lives. And one of the most important things, although they might not like it in the beginning, it's not up to them at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old whether they should be doing martial arts or boxing or any combat sport. It's up to you. It's not up to them. After 13, 14 years old, you can't do nothing with them. That's personally their thing. You can only try to convince them verbally and tell them why it's important that they do this stuff. But by that time, they're already caught up in Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok now, which is relentless, and having a good time, stimulating time. And they're always looking for that stimulation. But when this hits home, sometimes it's too late for them at that time. Way too late. Because you don't know how it's going to affect them if they survive it. You have no clue how it's going to affect them. It could affect them in the most negative way, where they will backlash and they will rebel because something inside of them just caused them to do that. That's what's terrifying. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, is that don't wait until it's too late, because the danger is in our front door, not our back door, our front door. And if you don't take the precautions to make sure that this danger does not come knocking on your door, and if it does, if your kid is prepared for it, I don't know what to say after that. I really don't. I think I've done as much as I possibly can for myself and for my students, and for as many of those that are willing to listen, to understand that life is not only about shopping and buying things and owning things if you're not around to own them to begin with. Life is about making sure that, you take every necessary measure to make sure that your life is safe as much as you possibly can, because you have to rely on yourself. For those parents, it's too late for them to do any martial arts or stuff like that. Well, listen, at least give that present to your kids. Teach them the value of it, and you have to be able to explain to them the difference between, yeah, but mom, I like to play soccer more. Play is different than train, and they have to know the difference. So you need to educate yourself in terms of these things. Yes, we are living in a very fucked up and dangerous society, and I hope you don't dismiss it or think, or belittle, how dangerous our society has become, because that only places you and your child in a greater risk, because your child won't focus on what they should focus on. Like I say, I tell my kids, you train yourself well enough and hard enough, get to know yourself really, really well, know the power that you have, so you can feel confident within yourself, so you can control the part that you can't control about yourself, and go and live life in life pleasantly. That's the important stuff. Anyways, I've taken much of your time. I will be doing a live very soon, in case anybody wants to ask any questions on basically anything, on how, preventative measures, what to look for, and stuff like that. Probably sometime this week, maybe tomorrow, I'll let you guys know on Facebook if you've made it this far into the video. I'll let you guys know exactly when, so that you can tune in. Until then, I wish you guys safety and safety, and we'll be talking soon. Have a good weekend.